Good morning, good people. It is Thursday, October 28th, 2021, and this is Wake Up with Ray G. How y'all doing this morning? Almost at the end of the week. We've almost made it another week. We've got NFL action kicking off tonight, NBA, World Series, college football, all types of stuff. We're just happy that you're here. Jay, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I mentioned to you that I had to have breakfast this morning. I've
Yeah.
been getting up super early, getting ready for the show, but I was just
Mm,
marved. Like I had to eat
mm,
something, so I grabbed some cereal. Not the best breakfast of choice, it is what it is. A little
mm.
bit of milk, a little bit of,
Are you okay?
wheat,
Okay.
I
What
guess.
what cereal? The key is the real question is what
Yeah,
cereal? What cereal?
I had
Let me
Fruit
guess. Wait, wait,
Loops.
wait, wait, wait.
Oh,
You
I had
said
Fruit Loops.
Fruit
I had Fruit
Loops.
Loops. That's what we got, bro. It was Fruit Loops or Cocoa Puffs. I'm not a big Cocoa Puffs person
How old
myself.
are you?
Hey man,
You
I'm
need like
28, but it
you need
ain't
like
I
Raisin
actually do like the Fruit
Bran,
Loops. Oh
Honey
no,
Bunches
or
of
like
Oats.
Vector.
Yeah, Honey Bunches of Oats, Raisin Bran. Um, those are my personal favorites. If I am in a childlike mood, I
Yeah.
delve into the Captain Crunch. I'm a big fan of Captain Crunch. I'm a Chex. I like the cinnamon Chex mix. I like that.
Okay.
Uh, but I don't do a lot of cereal. I don't eat a lot of breakfast, man. I'm more of a hearty kind of breakfast guy. I want like potatoes and eggs, bacon.
Yeah, same.
Not I'm not a sweet guy, man. I love French toast, but I don't do it in the morning. Like syrup
Hmm.
too early in the morning, like it just doesn't like I just don't like all that sugar, man. But yeah, just interesting. I just wanted to see what kind of man you were. And you're a Fruit Loops man.
A
So
child apparently.
yeah, you're a man child. There's no problem with that. But listen, man, we had a lot of action yesterday. NBA, World Series. We've got college that we're gonna dive in today. The NFL, some news popped off yesterday with the NFL league leading team, the undefeated team, the Arizona Cardinals are going to. It looks like J.J. Watt's going to be out for the season. Shoulder surgery. Actually injured the shoulder last week. Played through it. Sort of a bombshell that was announced because J.J. Watt's been playing like J.J. Watt, helping lead that very talented defense. Now they did get Chandler Jones back, so that should still keep them afloat. But J.J. Watt is a big loss for the Cardinals, Jay. I know you didn't know that he was confirmed out for the season, but all reports and all indications are he's done. I mean, how much does this impact your feeling and thought on the Arizona Cardinals? We talked about their Super Bowl odds. We talked about all of that. I mean, does the loss of this one defender sway you in any direction, or are you just kind of still the same?
For me, I think I feel pretty much the same. I think that JJ Watt is a force on the defensive end, but I don't think that he really moves the needle. Like, it didn't even move the line at all for the game. It's still
Yeah,
sitting at 6.5. That was the first thing I checked. How do the bettors feel about this? Long term outlook, I still think that why they brought JJ Watt in was for leadership, right? He can still do that from the sidelines. It's better if he's on the field playing with the team, but he can still lead, he can still teach, he can still coach, do all the things that he does. And, we'll see what happens with it. But I think that Arizona is bigger than just J.J. Watt, bigger than just Chandler Jones or Hassan Reddick, whoever's back there. I think they're a complete team now. And so we just need to see how
man.
far they can take this team, how far they can run. But yeah, the vets obviously help that they brought in, but I think that they are more leaders than playmakers. I think Chandler Jones is a much bigger addition to this defense, even with JJ Watt going down. He's the guy who's second on the team in sacks, the guy who had 5 sacks week one and hasn't had a sack since, which is insane.
Yeah, it's
But again,
crazy.
he's been hurt. But to still be second on the team in sacks after being hurt is just
Yeah,
wild. But yeah, man, I
JJ
don't think too
Watt
much of
is
it, but we'll
he.
see.
I didn't, and I'm just looking. I'm not looking at the advanced stats, so maybe he's got a bunch of QB pressures, hurries, knockdowns,
Yeah.
hits. But I mean, on the season, he's got 16 tackles and 1 sack.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're losing a ton, like you said. Veteran leadership. He is he's still a very good football player. The impact may be felt in other ways opposed to on-field production. I'm with you. I don't think it diminishes Arizona's chances at all to win that division and make a run for the Super Bowl. Speaking of run for the Super Bowl, we didn't talk about this yesterday. We didn't talk about it on Monday, Tuesday, but now that all the details have come out around Tom Brady's 600th football that he touchdown pass that he scored, have you been following that story, man? And I just want your opinion on what would you have done. Did you follow the story, or do I need to lay it out for you?
I sort of know. I don't know if anything's happened since. I remember that there was some details about what he got. It was like 2 years of season
Yeah, yeah,
tickets. He
yeah.
got
So
some
no,
signed jerseys, some cleats and stuff.
right. For those of y'all who may have missed it, Tom Brady throws a 600 touchdown pass. It's an NFL record. Mike Evans catches the ball in the end zone, gives the ball away to a fan. You see like a Tampa Bay employee walk up and is talking to the guy, pretty much like, "Hey man, Tom wants the ball. Give the ball back. Whoop de whoop, and we'll hook you up with some shit." So the guy gives the ball back, but people were like, I would not have given the ball back. You could have sold that ball for $250,000, $500,000. The compensation the guy received was a signed Tom Brady helmet, two signed Tom Brady jerseys, I think a Mike Evans jersey, $5,000 in store credit for the team gift store, and season tickets for the remainder of the year, right? That's what he got
Hmm.
for the ball. Now there are rules because, and I didn't even know this, but there's only like a limited number of footballs that each team has every week. So you're supposed to be fined for giving the ball away. Like you can be fined
Oh,
because there's
really?
only you can get like, I think it's like a $25,000 fine every football
Whoa.
that is given away, but the NFL doesn't enforce it because normally like Cam Newton's handing the ball to kids and doing stuff like, so it's never
Yeah.
really enforced. So long story short, if a NFL employee asks you, if you get handed a football in an NFL game, if you don't give the ball back, they can remove you from the stadium. They can tell you you can't come back. You've got to leave. But like legally, technically, they can't like take the ball from you. So a lot of
Yeah.
people were talking like, hell no, I wouldn't have given it back. I would have sold it to the highest bidder. You know, Shannon Sharp was talking about it on Undisputed. He was like, I want season tickets for life. And he was like, what are two season tickets for a stadium that holds 80,000 people when this
Yeah.
ball is either going to go into Canton, it's going to be Tom Brady. Like, what's two season tickets for life? He was like, at minimum, that's what I want. Just your thought in the moment, would you have given the ball back or would you have kept it and auctioned it away to the highest bidder? What would you have done in that situation?
That's a tough question. I think for me, I probably would have given it back, but I mean, I totally understand people wanting to auction it off because it's worth so much. And so, like, I think the thing was too was the fan didn't know that it was his 600th, so he kind of just gave it back. He's like, if someone comes up to you and says Tom wants the ball, you're like,
Brutal.
okay,
Brutal.
cool, and he just didn't know. But I mean, he got compensated. I think he also got a pair of Mike Evans cleats from that game as well. Was another one of the things. Mike signed his game worn cleats and gave them to him, but different when they're Mike Evans' cleats versus like why didn't Tom give him the jersey off his back? He probably just gave him some fresh ones out of the pro shop.
I don't know, man. It's I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I wouldn't have given it back right then. Like I'll tell you that for
Yeah.
a fact. I know me, and I probably would not have given it back. I'd have been like, screw y'all. But hey, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Some people think I'm greedy. I don't really care. I just know me. I probably wouldn't have given the ball back. Like I'm with Shay. At minimum, give me two season tickets for life, and I'm good. Like I can show
Yeah.
up whenever I want. I've got good seats. I'm cool with that. Like I don't need the monetary value, but $5,000 to the team gift store that literally is going to get you like two jerseys and a bag of peanuts. Have you ever been to an NFL team store and seen how expensive that shit was in there? Like that gets you absolutely nothing. So just interesting side note. You would have given it back. You're a nice guy. I would not have. I am a master negotiator, and I'm Antonio Brown about business. Booming. That's what it's about. So, last NFL news: Mark Ingram traded back to the Saints. What do you think about this
Yes.
move? Brandon Cooks
I'm
doesn't like the
excited.
move. Brandon Cooks said this is grade A BS. Not happy about it. He has been displeased with the Texans organization. He called them out for being undisciplined. He thinks this move is BS. They're wasting time, wasting his career. Feel bad for Brandon Cooks, man, but I feel real good for Mark Ingram.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks, I'm sure that he's still a little bit hurt from the Saints because they kicked him out on his ass, right? When it came down to it, they chose Michael Thomas over Brandon Cooks. I don't really blame them for that. I think they made a good decision. Brandon Cooks has made something of his career, of course, Mr. 1,000 yards himself. But I'm happy to see Mark Ingram back with Kamara. We saw how dynamic they are. We've seen for years now, like we're talking 15 plus years. Sean Payton loves two back systems. He's had two back systems that's been super effective. He knows Mark Ingram can run the system. I did not expect this to happen at all. Like, we talked about him potentially going back to Baltimore because he's a great fit there. He knows that system. I did not expect him to end up back in New Orleans. I'm curious what this means for Kamara, though, because he's been the lead back. And I don't think he would be unwilling to defer to Mark Ingram because Mark Ingram's like his big bro, right? When he came into the league, Mark's the one that taught him the ropes, showed him how to be a pro. So I think we'll see what happens there. But I think Mark could actually have a decent role in New Orleans again.
Yeah, I think it's good for Kamara. I mean, when you look over the past couple of weeks, 20 carries, 16 carries, 26 carries, 24 carries, 8 carries, 20 carries, he got 114 on the season. And I know yards per carry isn't the most predictive stat, but only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. Where you want Alvin Kamara deployed at is in the receiving game, man. So I think this is actually good for Alvin Kamara. And I think it boosts Mark Ingram's value a little bit as well, especially if he can take a little bit of the goal line work. We know Alvin Kamara is very good around the goal line. Like, you don't have to pull him off the field. But I just think this works well. I think this is good for Jameis Winston. They definitely needed another running back. Tony Jones has the ankle injury. Devon Exigbo has not looked good. I think he got like 1 or 2 carries in the game versus Seattle. So I just think this was a good move by New Orleans. They didn't give up anything of consequence, I don't believe. And it also boosts the fantasy stock and fantasy value of David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay in Houston. Now you kind of whittle down that 3-headed monster to now it's David Johnson, who probably looks to be the primary ball carrier. Now I do know they brought in.
You think so?
I think so, man. I think David Johnson's going to be the primary ball carrier with a sprinkling of Phillip Lindsay. I think they brought in Duke Johnson. I'm not sure what his role would be, but I think. No. Duke Johnson was with.
It was someone else, I think.
It was somebody
Someone brought
else.
him in.
They activated.
Miami did.
They activated Scotty Phillips. That's who it is. But I think
Okay.
this is good for David Johnson, man. So. Some sneaky value. I actually picked him up in a redraft league. He was sitting on waivers. I just picked him up. He's worth a shot. He's going to be a starting running back. It's not a good offense. Get him some passing work. Let him run the ball. We'll see how it plays out, man. I'm not expecting, 2016 version of David Johnson. I'm not expecting the 2017 version of David Johnson. But if you can get you a low-end flex play and RB2 from this situation, I'll take it, man. The unwritten rules of basketball. You wanted to talk about this. You thought this was quite funny. So go ahead. I don't think it's funny at all because it involves my team and them taking an L. But go ahead.
All right, so let's talk about Russell Westbrook. Mr. Russell Westbrook, the superstar out in LA now. He's playing without LeBron James, so he's thriving. He's playing really well. He went back to Oklahoma City last night. He gave away a 26-point lead with your Lakers, and that's not good. So they ended up losing to the Thunder, gave up that 26-point lead, and Russell Westbrook went nuclear. He had a spectacular feat, one that only few players can achieve. He achieved the quadruple double. He had 20 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and 10 turnovers.
10 turnovers, man.
10 turnovers. Oh boy. But at the end of the game, late in the game, Darius Baisley stole an inbound pass. He went to the other side of the court and dunked it home with 1.5 seconds left. Russ took exception to that. He was mad. He said at the end of the game, in a quote in the media after, he's like, in the game of basketball, there's certain things you just don't do. Like in baseball, you don't flip the bat. And I was like, Russ, come on, bro. You're old, but like you ain't that old. It's not like that in baseball. You can flip the bat now. People may get mad, but at the same time, you don't give a shit if you flip the bat. Right. People now need to realize if you don't want them to dunk the ball on your head late in the game, you better stop them. You better inbound it properly. And so to me, it's like, I get Russ is competitive. I get that he wants to win. He played terrible that game. He did have a triple-double, but his team still lost because he turned the ball over too much. They gave up the lead, all this stuff. So, again, if you don't like it, stop it. If you don't like it, don't lose to the worst team in the NBA who has more first-round picks than players on their roster. I'm sorry, man. Like, if you can't beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, yes, you're on the road. Yes, you don't have Braun, but inexcusable as far as I'm concerned.
26 points. That was just not good.
Brutal.
Not good. Brutal. Now, we did have a good one, man. World Series tied up 1-1. The Houston Astros got it done in impressive fashion, 7-2. What'd you think about that one, man?
I liked what I saw. We talked yesterday about Max Fried, how he's a lefty and how the Astros smash lefties. It didn't quite play out the way I expected because I expected the big dogs, the Correas, the Bregmans, the Altuves to really hammer home Max Fried. didn't really happen that much. It was the bottom of the order that really got it done. Some of the guys people have never heard of before just kind of stepping in, playing well. Martin Maldonado played well. And so we'll kind of see what happens now. But one thing I will say I was really happy with is the Braves did not have to use any of their high leverage relievers. So that's the problem with like last game. They had Charlie Morton go out in the third inning. They brought in all their good relievers and they pitched extensive amounts of pitches, innings, all that stuff. But this game, they got down early, and the manager, honestly, he didn't. I want to say he conceded the game, but because the Braves couldn't come back into it, they basically like, you know what, we're going to play our secondary relievers, our third level relievers, because we don't need to use our high leverage guys this game. The Braves played all right. They couldn't really get hitting. They had Travis d'Arnaud play really well, but they couldn't touch Jose Urquidy at all. They couldn't touch this guy through 5 innings. The bullpen for Houston ended up closing it out. It was a good game. It was just it was honestly played out the exact same way the first game played out. One team got up big early. The other team didn't really hit, couldn't really come back, closed it out. So we'll see. I'm happy that the Braves didn't use any of their big-time relievers, so they have a day off today, and then they're going to go into Friday fully rested or mostly rested, and they can kind of hit the ground hard back in Atlanta. They got to win 2 of 3 in Atlanta, though, because then they got to go back to Houston for game 6 and 7. So, I mean, they could close out in Atlanta, but they got to sweep. I don't think that's going to happen. But if they can win 2 or 3, I think they got a pretty good shot at winning the World Series after stealing one on the road in Houston.
All right, and the next game is when? Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, so Friday,
Yeah,
Saturday,
Friday.
Sunday will be the series in Atlanta, and then it'd be Tuesday, Wednesday in Houston to close it out.
Evan said that the same thing. He should be back to everyone available for Friday with enough rest for the pitching staff. So looks like we're going to have a good World Series, man. It's been quite entertaining. I know a lot of people are watching it, and it's going to be interesting to see how the fans react to Houston in Atlanta. So more
excited.
narratives and things of that nature. But, Jay, this is College Football Thursday. I know we've got a Thursday night football game. We already covered that yesterday, so if you want to catch that preview, make sure you go back and watch that. But it is college football, and we are going to beat the rush and try to make some money this Saturday in college football. Let's do it.
Wake up! This is Beat the Rush.
Get out of the way, jackass! All right, so we are going to take a look at, before we get into the games, let's just do a Heisman. Let's just do a Heisman check, because I went and looked at this yesterday, Jay, thinking that I kind of knew what the Heisman odds were, and they're much different. They're much different than I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're a lot. I guess it's not as close as I thought, and there's one player in particular who's a hell of a lot closer to being the odds-on favorite than I expected. So right now, the favorite for the Heisman Trophy right now is Bryce Young from Alabama at plus 160. Second, as you probably would guess, is who? Who would you guess?
Matt Corral.
Matt Corral at plus 300. Third is C.J. Stroud at plus 450, man. That's just, yeah, he's right there. But what's interesting is Caleb Williams at plus 1,500. Like, he was just he was just like 30 to 1, 35 to 1 2 weeks ago. And he's already chopped that in half. And, just so everyone knows, Bijan Robinson is out of there. He's at 35 to 1. Trevion Henderson's at 28 to 1. Desmond Ridder 30 to 1. Brian Robinson 35 to 1. So he's right there with Bijan Robinson. The two Robinsons 35 to 1. Here's what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen, Jay. Alabama is going to lose to Georgia in the SEC title game, okay? And when they lose to Georgia in the SEC title game, that will eliminate them from the college football playoff contention, and I think it will crush Bryce Young's Heisman odds. I think he's out of it. Now you're looking at Matt Corral versus C.J. Stroud. And we're going to talk about the Ole Miss game today because a lot of people have Auburn favored. The bettors have Auburn as the favorites for this game.
They do.
If Matt Corral loses this game, and I think Ohio State's going to run the table, man. I truly believe they're going to run the table. I think there's a real case that right now the money should be laid on C.J. Stroud to win the Heisman Trophy. And I got C.J. Stroud in the summer at 22 to 1 in the summer.
Okay.
So
that's good.
How does that theory sound to you? How does that play out? Because Stroud has been amazing, and we'll get into his stats here in a second. He's been phenomenal, like, since he came back from injury. Like, he's got his confidence under him. What are your thoughts on that theory? Because I think that's how this is going to play out.
I love it because we talked about his case for the Heisman, and it was statistically driven. Obviously, playing on Ohio State on top of that, they're the number one offense in the country. Like, I mean, we can get into
Mm-hmm.
that later, but they are. He's running the number one offense in the country. He struggled early on, but what we talked about with him versus Bryce Young versus, DJU is that we knew he would get the stats because Ohio State, for whatever reason, they put up 50, they put up 60. They don't care. Their quarterbacks play. It's not like at Clemson where they pull guys in the first, second half,
Right.
or in this case,
Yeah.
just suck. Or
Yeah.
Alabama, same thing. They put up a lot of points, but Bryce Young's been not quite Mac Jones level efficient. He's been really good, and he's obviously not as tenured as Mac Jones, but he hasn't been putting up those same numbers. So maybe he doesn't win the Heisman. But I think to your point about Georgia, they could beat Alabama. Ole Miss could lose this week to Auburn. And the way I'm looking at the stats, I see that that's a real possibility. But CJ Stroud will have the numbers at the end of the season, and that's why I think he's got a really good shot. It just depends on how many touchdowns Travion Henderson takes away from him, because damn, that boy is good. And CJ Stroud's balling, though, like playing on that number one offense in the country. So I think that your case is really good, and I think he's got a really good shot. Last 3 games, he's put up 4+ touchdowns each game. I don't see why he can't keep doing that every week.
Yeah, he's been balling, man. It's just a weird year for the Heisman, man. It's just a weird year because there's no one player that's just dominating head and shoulders above one another. And you can almost make a case for all these guys. If Bryce Young beats Georgia, he's the Heisman. If Matt Corral beats Auburn, runs the table in the SEC, he's the Heisman. I just think there are a lot. And Caleb Williams, let's not sleep on Caleb Williams either. I mean, he's right there with the 4th best odds, and he's only started the 5th best odds, and he's only started 2 games, 3 games. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. But let's dive into the games, and we'll start with, who do we want to start with? Michigan at Michigan State. Number 6, number 8. You see the graphic. Kenneth Walker, Hassan Haskins. You've got running backs galore in this matchup. Michigan State is 7-0. And listen, man, a lot of people talk trash about Mel Tucker coming in, but Mel Tucker is balling. Wake Forest transfer Kenneth Walker is balling, leading the nation in rushing with 142.4 yards per game. And you see him reflected, his Heisman odds reflected at 22-1. He won't win it. Talked about a little case that maybe Kenneth Walker can get there, but he won't win it. Michigan is favored by 4 with an over-under of 50.5. Michigan has won the last 2 meetings at Spartan Stadium, and the Wolverines are 6-1 against the spread this season. Michigan is 18-4 as a road favorite under Jim Harbaugh. This is the 5th time these teams meet as 2 top 10 AP teams in the country. What's interesting about that is Michigan State is 3-1 in those matchups. So that took place between 1956 and 1964. So a long damn time ago. I think this is going to be a ground and pound game, Jay. Michigan is averaging 246.5 yards per game behind Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, and Michigan State averages 200 yards per game with Kenneth Walker at the helm. The defenses are both very, very good, and Michigan has limited Michigan State to less than 60 rushing yards in 4 of the last 6 meetings. But the crazy thing is, even though Michigan State has only rushed for less than 60 yards in those matchups, they won 2 of those damn games, man. Michigan State has been more explosive than Michigan on the season, averaging nearly 7 yards per play, while Michigan sits at 6.3. What are your thoughts in this matchup? Because I know, I've got on the show sheet players to target, prop bets to target in this game. And with these running backs, you want to be like over. But man, I'm very inclined to take the under on all the running backs in this game. And a lot of the lines aren't out yet, so you got to kind of look at them on Prize Picks. And I'm going to pull them up real quick, Jay, for you right here. I know Blake Corum was... Okay, so here we go. Kenneth Walker, 86.5 rushing yards. Blake Corum, 94.5 rushing yards. And they don't even have Hassan Haskins listed right now. But what are your thoughts on this matchup? Should this be a good one? What are your thoughts with these 2 rushing teams? 2 teams that want to run the ball, but 2 defenses that are pretty stingy against the run.
I'm actually thinking this game's going to be really close. Whether or not it will be an underfest, I'm not sure because while these defenses are good, I think that both these offenses have shown the propensity to beat good defense. And that's why I'm kind of interested to take the over on Kenneth Walker. We know that Michigan's going to be selling out to beat him, but I think that more than likely they're going to have a scheme ready to beat Michigan, you know. A lot of these college programs, if Kenneth Walker has a bad game, it's probably because they're looking ahead a little bit, you know. Like there's definitely matchups that coaches circle on their schedules every year, and this is one of them, right? Michigan versus Michigan State, probably the biggest game of the year as far as Michigan State's concerned. This is a one that they're very familiar with the system. They've seen them for years. They know how they're going to play. They know their best players. They know where they're going to come from. Where Kenneth Walker's a little bit new. Like Michigan knows Kenneth Walker. They've seen him on tape, but they're not as familiar with him
Right.
as they are with the Michigan defense. And so that's why I think that they're going to be able to exploit this. And Kenneth Walker under 100 yards is always a number I'm going to like, regardless of who they're playing against. Like you mentioned, this is going to be a tight game. So that may allow him to get more.
You said Kenneth Walker under 100 yards is something you like or over?
Yeah. No, I'm saying when he's under 100 yards, that's when I like it because I think this, like you mentioned, this game's gonna be close. You only have a spread of 4 points,
Yeah.
so it should be a close game and allow Kenneth Walker to continue to get the ball. He may see 30 carries, he may see 35 carries because I don't think they're gonna go away from him. I don't think they're gonna go away from their best player. He's the one that got them here. The defense has been playing great. The quarterback's play's been okay, but I think they're gonna ride and die with Kenneth Walker against one of the best teams in the country. I personally like the Spartans with the points, playing at home. I always like home dogs. I don't know if I would take the under, but I am inclined to take the over on Kenneth Walker's rushing yards. I think it's going to be a good game, though, and I'd probably take the points with Michigan State.
Yeah, and Michigan State pulled an upset last year in this matchup. And just for context purposes, man, you're talking about these two running backs averaging 260 yards a game. The quarterback right now, Cade McNamara, guess what his over-under passing yards total is?
150?
Yeah, 162. So, I mean, they're telling you right now they're probably not going to throw the ball a lot. Michigan State's underrated. Listen, man, they're 7-0 for a reason. I like Michigan State and the points. I'm with Dale said it right here, man. This is one of the ones I got on early to Sparty and the points. I think we're looking at a potential upset in this matchup. Now, I do really like Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, but 94.5 yards for Corum, I don't know. I would be inclined to take the under on that. I'm still inclined to take the under on Kenneth Walker, man. I think Michigan's going to try to sell out to stop him and force Peyton to throw the ball. This is one where I'd be inclined. Well, Michigan State's at home, man. They're at home.
They're at home. And I'm betting on that explosion from, like, when you talk about betting on the talent, that's what I'm doing with Walker, is that if I can get a little bit of juice to him being only in the 80s, and I think he's the better talent, that's why I'm kind of riding with him on the over there. And I think he could get close, plus the volume. You know, if he sees 20 carries and only averages 4 yards a carry, that's already 80 yards. And I think he can easily get there. So we'll see what he can do, but I think he's got at least one big run in him, plus, you know, just plodding along throughout the game, seeing 20 to 30 carries. And I think he can do it.
All right. Well, let's stay in the Big Ten. You want to just make it a Big Ten affair? Let's stay.
Yes, sir.
Let's stay in the Big Ten, and let's talk about Ohio State, Penn State. Now, this matchup has lost some of the luster that it had a couple of weeks ago. Penn State has dropped back-to-back games. We saw them lose in catastrophic fashion versus Illinois last week in 9 overtimes. 9 overtimes. How many damn touchdowns do you think Penn State should have scored? Probably like 6, right? 7. They put up 18 points in 9 overtimes. 9 extra, a whole game. They only got 18. 2 games. They played 2 games last Saturday and scored 18 points. Not good for Penn State. So Ohio State, favored by 18.5. And honestly, Jay, I think that's a smash. Honestly, I think they absolutely rolled this one. Ohio State has 5 wins against the spread in 7 games this season. Ohio State games have gone over in the total in 5 of 7 opportunities at 71.4%. They average 559.3 yards per game, number 1 in the country, and 234.9 yards more than Penn State allows on defense, man. Defense. Ohio State has won 5 straight after losing to Oregon, and they're averaging 54.4 points per game. And they're seeking a 5th consecutive game with 50 or more points scored. Jay, that's insane. That's insane, man. They currently lead the nation in both scoring and total offense, and they've scored a touchdown on 19 consecutive drives with CJ Stroud at QB. One more time. They have scored a touchdown on 19 consecutive drives with CJ Stroud at QB, excluding two at the half non-drives. So until late second punt by Indiana. Blah, 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 blah. Ohio State has won 4 consecutive games over Penn State in 8 of the last 10, and they lead the all-time series. Let's give Penn State some love here. Penn State as the nation's number 6th ranked scoring defense, right? So they do have a very, very good defense. But here's what concerns me, Jay. This is what concerns me in this one. Penn State, they gave up 357 yards on the ground last week to Illinois. And what do you think Ohio State can do? They can run it. They can throw it. They're averaging more yards and more points than every other team in college football. They have found their groove. What do you think about this matchup and the narrative, and how does this game play out?
I am struggling to pick a side here for the spread. And the main reason why is because, like you mentioned, Ohio State basically has this is basically an implied point total of 40-20.
And
right?
they've been putting up 5 straight 50-pointers.
Yeah, well, it's 3 straight 50, and then the game against Tulsa was 41.
Yes,
but then, like you mentioned, 52, 66, 54 the past 3 weeks. Just ridiculous numbers, just ridiculous. Like, CJ Stroud is on another level. He's leading the nation in QBR, actually, 91.7. I don't know if you knew that, but
I didn't know
6th
that.
in the league in touchdowns, 22, almost 2,000 passing yards. Well, some of the games he didn't even play them all. So to be 16th in passing yards says a lot about how good he's been. Trayvon Henderson, best running back in the country, pretty damn close, especially behind that offensive line. It's going to be really hard to stop him. I think, though, I am leaning Penn State with the points. And I know it sounds crazy, but they have been a lot better through the air this season. I don't think the Ohio State defense has been good through the air. I think they're a little bit better on the run than they have been. But we'll see. You know, like, Oregon really gashed them on the run game, but I think that Penn State's actually better through the air with Jahan Dotson, like we talked about. He's going to be a guy that he's going to have a good game, and I think Penn State can put up points. The question is, can they put up 30? Because they're going to need to put up 30 if they're going to cover the spread, and I think that they can, and it's just hard to explain why they played so bad last week, but I think that against Ohio State, they're going to be playing up for it, and I'm hoping they can cover the spread. I'm going to take Penn State with the points. I'm not going to take Ohio State to cover, even though they easily could. But I think this game goes over, too, right? I think you're probably looking at a game that's closer to 45-30 than 50 to 20.
I don't think there's any way in the world Penn State puts up 30 points. No way. No, I would be shocked if they scored 3 touchdowns. If they scored 20 points, 21 points, I would be absolutely floored. I think Ohio State is going to wipe the floor with Penn State in this matchup. I don't think it's going to be close. I would take Ohio State, give Penn State the points, and I'm taking Ohio State to cover, man. And, you know, me, I love to do a teaser. Even if you tease this thing like 6.5 points, and Ohio State's just got to win by 2 touchdowns. I don't trust Sean Clifford. The Penn State rushing attack, I don't trust it. They just gave up 357 on the ground to Illinois. They're facing arguably, the top receiving core in the country. And I'm not just talking about Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba could be better than both of those guys when it's all said and done. You've got Trevion Henderson out of the backfield. There is C.J. Stroud. You do have Jeremy Ruckert at tight end. I think this is going to get ugly really, really quickly for Penn State. And then they're coming off of a 9 overtime loss. Their head coach is in the news right now because people think that he's a prime candidate for the USC coaching job. So USC head coaching job. This is one there. You couldn't pay me enough to take Penn State in the points. No way, man. No freaking way. Easy to look sad. Easy to look at something this week for Penn State. Thought last week's game was a lock before it wasn't. Yeah, I think we all did.
Big Ten games, man. They're ugly.
They're ugly. Evan, you're not the only one, bro. Like, I think we all thought Penn State was a lock versus Illinois, and then it wasn't. James Franklin is California. What did he say? James Franklin is California dreaming, man. route for route. I'm telling you, I think Penn State's going to get killed in this matchup. But that's not the only game that we have. We got a lot of big games. Who do you want to go to next? You want to go to the
You gonna go SEC or do you want to hit the Big 12?
I don't know. Let's go SEC. Let's talk Auburn, Ole Miss, Matt Corral, Bo Nix. Hey, remember the narrative? There was somebody, I think it was Jordan Palmer, that said that Bo Nix could be the number one pick in the draft this year. Do you remember that?
I was gonna give him the nickname of Houdini on this graphic, because Bo Nix is just incredible.
Yeah, Bo Nix is incredible. All right, Ole Miss, Auburn. Auburn is favored by 2.5 in this matchup. You've got my favorite quarterback in the 2022 class, Matt Corral. And, Bo Nix is going to get drafted, man. I think he's going to get drafted like day 3, like the 4th round. And he'll be one of those guys that people tell you in dynasty rookie drafts, like, you got to pick a quarterback. He's worth a shot. But I want no interest. I have zero interest in Bo Nix from a fantasy perspective. But this one, it seems like, man, Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral getting no love in this one. Auburn, -2.5. They are the favorites with an over-under of 66.5. Well, what's the case for Ole Miss? Well, not a good one. I'll tell you that right now. Ole Miss is 2-8-2 against the spread in their last 12 games versus Auburn, and they are 1-6 straight up against the Auburn Tigers on the road in their last 7 meetings as visitors. So every time Ole Miss is coming into town, they don't cover. I mean, at least in the last 7 games, they ain't been covering, all right? Ole Miss has the 3rd-ranked offense in the country, racking up 541 yards per game, and they're averaging 6.8 yards per play. That is crazy. And Auburn, as Jay put on the show sheet, surprisingly, is 30th in the country with 447.7 yards per game, averaging 6.48 yards per play. So a battle of the offenses in this one, or maybe the defenses. I don't know. I think this could be a defensive battle right here. Auburn is the 40th ranked defense in terms of total yardage, only allowing 340 yards per game. So you've got something's got to give, right? Is Ole Miss's offense going to overtake this Auburn defense? Auburn is at home. Ole Miss doesn't play well on the road, and they don't play well at Auburn in particular, right? Ole Miss, however, is ranked 100th, so they're damn near dead last in total defense, averaging 420 yards per game. This is an opportunity for Bo Nix to put up some points. And right now, Auburn's favored by 2.5. You said on the show sheet, this game is about Tank Bigsby, who should be able to run the ball at will on Ole Miss. Tank Bigsby should be able to get busy, have a good ground game, and they've got a couple of running backs at Auburn, actually. I can't think of the other dude's name, but another running back that's pretty legit as well. This will be Auburn's best chance to keep Matt Corral off the field. This to me is a big statement game for Corral. If Corral really wants to solidify himself as the top quarterback in 2022, as a true contender for the Heisman Trophy, and you got to think about what's happening this week. Alabama doesn't play. Alabama's got bye, right? So all the focus is really going to be on, C.J. Stroud and Matt Corral. Kenny Pickett as well, and we'll talk about Pickett in a second. But this is a big opportunity for these players to showcase their talents on the national stage without Alabama taking shine away from them. If Matt Corral can go out here on the road in Auburn, where they have not played well over the last 7 meetings, and pull off a victory, pull off an upset because they're the underdogs, this can really propel his chances to win that Heisman Trophy, as well as solidify himself as the top pick at the quarterback position in 2022. I don't know how this one is going to play out, man. This is one where I'm a little scared to touch this one. Right now, Matt Corral on Prize Picks, his over-under passing yard totals is 268.5. I don't know if he's 100% healthy. Like, there was reports leading into last week. He wasn't going to play. Then he played, and he played fine, and he looked fine. He was running the ball. He was throwing the ball. How do you think this game plays out? Do you think Auburn takes care of it? Ole Miss loses on the road. What do you think happens in this matchup? As I'm hearing, Lane Kiffin, too, is actively lobbying for the USC head coaching job.
Sounds like everyone's actively lobbying for the USC head coaching job.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was so desirable.
Yeah.
But for me, I actually am inclined to take Auburn here. Auburn has played surprisingly well, and as far as being consistent, They went into Penn State and they won, which doesn't look as good now, but they did go into Penn State and won. Bo Nix played great in that game. Tank Bigsby did his thing. But the biggest thing for me is this defense. I knew that Ole Miss's defense wasn't great, but I definitely thought they were better than 100th in the country. You want these defenses in the SEC to be in the top 50 at least to be contenders, right? But then again, you do have the number 3 offense in the country. Matt Corral is really what makes this team tick. So if he isn't going right, they're going to lose, and they're probably going to lose by a lot. And that, I think, is the biggest problem, is that they're not going to be able to stop Auburn from scoring points. I think they're going to be able to go up and down the field. We know Bo Nix isn't the most consistent player. I thought he was having a better season. I went and checked his numbers. They're basically the same as they've always been.
They're the same.
Yeah, which is shocking. I thought he was playing way better.
He doesn't get better. He doesn't get worse. He just stays the same.
Yeah, everything. Completion percentage, QBR, average pass yards per game, all the same. But I think that Auburn is playing a little bit better. They brought in the Boise head coach, and so they're running the ball a little bit more effectively. I think Tanks Bigsby's been a real beneficiary of that. And I think this game in particular is going to go Auburn's direction. I love the defense. I love what they've been doing on offense. I'm a bit of a Bo Nix apologist because in the Discord, man, everyone's always talking shit about Bo Nix. So someone's got to come to defense out here.
You like you some Bo Nix for some reason.
I do like Bo Nix because, 5-star prospect. He was a top 3 quarterback in his draft class?
He was like top 2.
He was
3,
high, man.
Yeah, he was
high. 5-star prospect, everything. But yeah, like you said, 4th round draft pick. I don't even think he's going to go 4th round. I'd say probably 6th round is where he's going to settle in. But he can run the ball a little bit. He can play make, all that stuff. I do like Auburn with the -2.5. The over-under, though, how do you feel about that? I'm kind of leaning towards the under. 66.5 is a lot. And I think that Auburn's going to control the ball on the ground. Yeah. And, if Corral doesn't have his best game, it's not going over, like, guaranteed. Yeah. He's going to have to really, really play well for it to go over. And I think still Snoop Connor's still going to run the ball. Corral's going to run the ball. Nick's going to run the ball. Tank's going to run the ball. Yeah. I just think it's probably says under all over it.
Yeah, I like the under as well. And just Prize Picks has Bo Nix passing yard totals at 224. So Matt Corral at 268. Bo Nix at 224.
Seems a little bullish.
Yeah, but again, 100th ranked defense. I mean, we saw KJ Jefferson absolutely
shred them.
Ole Miss, you know what I'm saying? I love Matt Corral, but on the road, they're 1-6 straight up against Auburn on the road in their last 7 meetings. Smart money would be on Auburn in this matchup. So I would take the under. If I were going to do anything with this game, I would take the under 66.5. That's where I would go. Let's stay in the SEC and talk about the best team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. They take on the Florida Gators. Georgia is favored by 14 points. You can get Florida on the money line at plus 461. Over under total of 51 points. Listen, the big thing is I don't know who the hell is going to play quarterback. Is it Emory Jones or is it Anthony Richardson? I think that changes the equation a little bit. But this game is played in Jacksonville as a neutral site, even though it's right down the street from Gainesville. I mean, it's a home game for Florida, essentially. But Georgia's not too far away either. Since 2008, the Georgia-Florida game has featured 4 consecutive 3-game wins. Has featured.
Okay, do you want me to explain this to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this is a really weird stat.
Mean, but go ahead.
Okay. It's a really weird stat I found, but basically every team has gone back and forth winning 3 games in a row since 2008. So this streak was broken this past season when Kyle Pitts beat Georgia. And so Florida is on track to win 3 straight games if history repeats itself. So it's just a weird stat that I found as far as the rivalry goes. But if it continues, Florida will win this game outright. And they will win it fairly easily. But yeah, it's weird. Like, I think it was Georgia, Florida, and then now it's back to Florida again for another 3. Crazy trend of 12 games straight. This last season being the 13th, continuing this streak, and Florida on track to win the 14th game in this weird streak of games. It's really, really weird stat that I found.
Well, there you go, folks. If you want some free money, just take Florida on the money line. If you want smart money, you don't do that because Georgia leads the nation in every damn defensive category there is. Just about first in yards per play. They're only giving up 3. Think about all those yards per play we just were talking about with Ohio State averaging 6.8 yards per play and Ole Miss averaging 6.4 yards per play. Georgia's giving up half of that, 3.57 yards per play. They're first in yards per game, 208. That's what that defense is giving up. That's That's nuts. I mean, Bijan Robinson's rushing total alone is at 124, and they're only giving up 208 yards per game. Their first in opponents' first downs, only giving up 84 first downs on the
On
season.
the entire season, yeah. They've only given up 84 first downs, which is nuts
This
in
is an
8
NFL
games.
defense. This is a legitimate NFL defense. In Florida, listen, their defense is not good, right? You know, they're down the list, 38th in the country in yards per game allowed, 338. Stetson Bennett's playing well for Georgia. Uh, Brock Bowers looking like the best damn tight end in the country. I don't know if Jermaine Burton is playing. Darnell Washington. You've got Zamir White. You've got James Cook, Kendall Milton. I don't see a world in which Florida pulls this off. If Emory Jones is in at quarterback, he's just been turnover prone. He's been turnover prone all season. Anthony Richardson, at this point, I think is a better option than Emory Jones, but Anthony Richardson is still more athlete than quarterback at this point, and it's not his fault, but he's just not he's not getting the reps, right? They should just turn it over to him completely. I don't know if he still has lingering injury or what, and I keep wondering why the hell Anthony Richardson isn't the starting quarterback. But this one, man, honestly, Jay, if I would take Georgia minus 14. I get the cool stuff that you found, but I would not touch Florida at all, and I think Georgia handles them. You know, and I know this is an SEC battle, and they play each other tough, but I just don't see them being able to do anything on this defense. We saw Georgia completely shut down an Arkansas team that put up 50-something points, you know, on Ole Miss. I don't see it happening. I wouldn't touch it from a Florida perspective, and I'm all over it as far as Georgia taking this one and winning and covering the spread, man.
How do you feel about the over-under at 51? Because I remember when they played Arkansas, I believe it was a similar number, like 55 or 50, and I was like, I think it's going to go under, but I was just too scared to bet it because I don't know what Georgia's offense is going to do, and I don't know. Like Florida's offense is kind of weirdly good. They average 500 yards per game, and they're 5th in the country in yards per play at 7.07. So I'm not trying to say that they're going to like beat down Georgia's defense by any stretch, but they're a lot better on offense than I expect them to be. And so I'm curious, like, are they going to be able to put up like 14 points on them? And then is Georgia going to put up another 25 to 30? I don't know.
I actually like the over, man. Georgia's been, listen, it's as good as Georgia is defensively. Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers, Zamir, like they're scoring points, which makes them even more lethal. Like this isn't the LSU team of like, this was some years ago, but when they had Justin Jefferson's older brother, Justin Jefferson, at quarterback, and they played Alabama in the Natty, I think that game, like the final score was like 9-6. It was something like that. Just the defense. It's not that kind of defense where that kind of team where they're all defense, no offense. I like the over in this one, man. I actually like the over. All right, let's talk about Texas Tech, Oklahoma. Caleb Williams versus Henry Colombi. He's not even Tyler Shaw. Tyler Shaw's not in the game. He's hurt. Oklahoma they struggled for a little bit versus Kansas. Listen, Oklahoma's defense, I'm just telling you right now, is horrible. Terrible defense. Now, the crazy thing about Texas Tech is they started the year 5-3, and their head coach is gone. Head coach is gone. Offensive coordinator Sonny Cumbie will take over. Do you know why the head coach is gone, Jordan?
I don't. I didn't even know who their quarterback was. So just fill me in on everything Texas Tech related.
He didn't want to get the super soldier.
No.
And they got him up out of there, man. He didn't.
He's got that wazoo syndrome.
I think that's why. I'm not really sure. Is that why he got fired? Maybe not. The hell if I know. I honestly don't know. I just made that up. Is that why he got fired?
I don't know. I didn't even know the guy's name. So how am I going to look it up? I had to look up Henry Colombi to find a picture of this guy.
You should know Henry Colombi. He played there. He played last year for them, and he wasn't very good last year. I don't know why he was fired, man, to be honest with you. But he started off 5-3. I don't know why he got let go, honestly. But Sonny Cumbie, he played quarterback there in the past, so he's going to be taking over. I say all of that to say I wonder how focused Texas Tech is going to be for this matchup with the new team. They're 32nd in the country in passing offense, averaging 296.5 passing yards per game. And they've got the 27th ranked third down offense in the country. So they want to take to the sky. They want to throw the ball. That's what Texas Tech does. Henry Colombi versus Oklahoma last year was not good. Not good. 15 for 28, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. And Oklahoma routed them 62-28. They absolutely beat them down. Spencer Rattler. Oh, my, have times have changed. My, have times have changed. Oklahoma has combined with its opponents to put up more than 66.5 points in 5 of 8 games this season. So when we're looking at the over-under total of 66.5, they've done it 5 of 8 times. You'd be inclined to take the over in this game. Texas Tech's games have gone over 66.5 points in 3 of 8 chances this season. There's a good chance that this is the over, right? Good chance. The two squads have combined to allow, listen to this, these two squads have combined to allow 55.2 points per game. The average total in Sooners games this season is 62.8. So I'm just saying all that to say a high-scoring matchup. High-scoring matchup. Texas Tech, they were able to stuff Kansas State running game last week, but TCU and Texas had over 300 yards on the ground and won in those matchups easily. Since Caleb Williams has taken over the helm at quarterback for OU, that rushing attack has gone crazy, has gone absolutely insane. Caleb Williams doing it on the ground, Kennedy Brooks doing it on the ground, and they're averaging 261 yards per game on the ground since they switched to from Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams on Prize Picks, his over-under rushing total is 50, I believe it's 57.5. Let me see where Caleb is. I believe it's 57.5 rushing yards. Well, I think he's hit it, man. Like 57.5 for Caleb Williams, 107.5 for Kennedy Brooks. So, and Kennedy Brooks has been balling this year. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of shit on Kennedy Brooks, but he's been playing very, very well this season, and he's actually one of my players to target from the Prize Picks perspective, and I would take the over on Kennedy Brooks. They don't have Caleb Williams' passing touchdown prop total out yet. I'd assume it's probably going to be 1.5. I would be inclined to take the over on that. And I would take the over on Henry Colombi's passing over because Oklahoma's defense is terrible. That defense is very, very bad. They're racking up a ton of points on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, Oklahoma is a gaping wound, allowing passing yards and rushing yards all over the place. The spread 20 points.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. Can they cover?
I would just take the over. I would take the over. I don't know about them covering, man. I'm not sure about that one. I would not feel comfortable taking Oklahoma minus 20, especially seeing how they struggled against Kansas last week. And I know it was a road matchup, but still, I don't care. This is at home. That's why I'm more bullish on the rushing totals for Kennedy Brooks, and I like 57.5 for Caleb Williams as well, man. But you don't like the spread. You're not liking 20 points here.
No, it's way too much. Oklahoma has shown that they just haven't been able to put teams away. I think there's maybe one game they've been in a blowout all season long. We talked about this before the season even started. I mean, it was Spencer Rattler at the helm, the turnovers, blah, 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 but they just don't beat teams down anymore. They can put up points, but they'll still allow 30. They'll still allow 40. And I want to actually come down to Texas very soon because I want to lobby for the Red Raiders to be renamed the Air Raiders. I think that'd be a sweet new name. The Texas Tech Air Raiders running that air raid offense. They're going to have no problem, I don't think, moving the ball on Oklahoma. They may be a few picks, a few turnovers here or there from Colombi, but I think that overall, if we could see 300, 400 yards, they're going to throw the ball probably 60, 65 times. Oklahoma's going to run the ball a lot, but they're going to put up points, and then the Red Raiders are going to have to come back, airing it out. So I think that you're right, taking Colombi's passing over. I like Kennedy Brooks rushing over, and then Caleb Williams, he better throw some damn touchdowns, man. I'm tired of seeing him just run the ball in or hand it off. Let's get the man some passing touchdowns.
Well, maybe the play is Caleb Williams, 57.5 rushing. I mean, what's he got? Let me see what his last Caleb Williams. Let's see. Caleb Williams, his last 3 games, his game log. Let's see what Caleb has done in the rushing department. I mean, on the season, he's got 26 for 285 and 4 touchdowns, man. I mean,
he's gone over that number pretty much every game he's played. He's
got,
70, 66,
yeah.
88, 60. Like every game he's been playing,
Yeah.
honestly at all, whenever he's got more than 4 carries, he's gone over that number. So it should, I think to your point, it seems like a lock if it's only 57.
And Texas Tech's defense is not good. I mean, I actually really like Caleb Williams. Oh, I may do something there. I like Caleb Williams and Kennedy Brooks. It's a different type of Oklahoma offense, man. I think Caleb Williams brings some of that Jalen Hurts factor back to Oklahoma. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he can throw. I think he's a better thrower, but he's maybe not as good a runner, but he's good. You know what I mean? So I kind of like 57.5 versus a bad defense where the implied total is 66.5. The over-under is at 66.5. That might be the play. So I really like that. Let's talk about week. I think this is not week 7, Jay. I think this is like week 8.
Oh no, it's week 9. It's week 9.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I know. It's because I made the graphic, man. And then I had to go back over it, and that was the one thing I've got to change. Week 9, prize picks, college football picks.
Prize pick. Yes. Week 9, college football. Jay is living 2 weeks in the past, but these are 3 plays that I really, really like. Bijan Robinson over 1 touchdown. I think Bijan Robinson versus Baylor gets in the end zone multiple times on the ground. I've got him projected for 2 rushing touchdowns. Carson Strong, my boy Carson Strong. Jay, not Cranston Strong, Carson Strong. Jesus, man. Good grief. Over under 3.5 rushing yards. I'm taking the negative 3.5 rushing yards. I know that's a crazy prop, but Carson Strong, folks. I mean, in college sacks count against your rushing yard totals, and versus UNLV, I expect him to get sacked a couple of times. Carson Strong is not going to run ever run. So I'm going to take Carson Strong under minus 3.5 rushing yards. And Kenny Pickett, the man a lot of people are claiming to be the number 1 overall pick or the number 1 quarterback in the 2022 draft, over 2.5 passing touchdowns versus that bad Miami defense. I'm going to rock with Kenny Pickett and think that he's going to get us 3 passing touchdowns this week. Feel good about this power play. I would do it. I'd put a unit on it, and I like it. Bijan Robinson over his rushing touchdown total. Carson Strong under his rushing yard total. And Kenny Pickett over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Here we go. Week 9 college football prize pick plays. Week 9 look ahead. I know a lot of y'all in the comments were talking about Wisconsin, Iowa. I don't really care. I just want to see Braylon Allen play. I'm not betting Iowa. I don't want to watch that boring ass game. I'm sorry if you're from Iowa. I love you. I appreciate you tapping in, but I don't. Those are the 5 matchups that I'm really focused on this week. I also want to see North Carolina versus Notre Dame. There are a couple of little ancillary matchups that you want to watch some individual players from, but those are the games. That's college. Tomorrow we go through our 5 NFL matchups that we're very bullish on, and we'll hit on some player props that we like from the other games that we do not discuss. I appreciate you tapping in. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tap in every single day. Catch us tomorrow. Have a great day. Let's finish out the week strong. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. I'm out. Peace.